Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we'll review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Bava Metzia, pages 109 through 115. Amar Rava, 109. Makri Dardiki, the teacher of small children, Shatala, the planter, Tabacha, the slaughterer, Umana, the circumciser, Vesafar Damata, and the town scribe, Kulan Kemutrin Va'omdim Dami. They're all considered forewarned regarding blundering on the job and the possibility of immediate dismissal. Klala de Milta, this is the general rule. Kol Pseda de Lohada Kemutrin Va'omdim Dami. Any person who's in a position where they could cause tremendous damage and loss for the counterparty is as though they're already forewarned about dismissal from their position. 110. Kufyud. Hamakabel sadem echavero. Lishavua echad b'sheva me'od zuz. If you receive a field of your fellows to lease it out for a sabbatical cycle for 700 zuz. Now, the sabbatical cycle has 7 years in it, so theoretically this is 100 zuz per year. Hashvit min haminyan, the sabbatical year is included within this calculation, and after 7 years, the field will return, with the lease being over. However, kibla hemenu sheva shanim, b'sheva ma'od zuz, if the deal was 7 years for 700 zuz, then the assumption is it's 7 years of workable land. And since in the sabbatical year, the Shemitah, you're not allowed to work the land, ein hashvit min haminyan, we do not reckon the sabbatical year as having been part of the lease agreement. Rather, there's one further year at $100, 100 zuz per year, tacked on. 111. Amar Rav Asi. Afilu lo secharo el livtzor lo eshkol echad shel anavim over mishum bal talim. The law is, according to the Torah, you're not allowed to delay the payment of the wage of a worker overnight until the next day. Now the question is there a minimum amount of work that must be performed for this law to be applicable? Or even for the most insignificant and minor of jobs, does the statute kick in? And Rav Asi is saying that even if the deal was you're just being hired to harvest one cluster of grapes, the rule of Baal Talin holds true, and the householder must pay for the labor at the appropriate time. 112. Sachir. When it comes to a hired worker, a day laborer, whatever it might be, why is it that the sages enacted a rule that the worker swears about having not yet been paid his salary, and then, on the basis of that oath, collects his salary? Now, the reason why this is such an important question is because, in general, an oath mandated by the Torah allows a person to absolve himself from having to pay somebody else. But usually an oath alone is not enough to extract money from somebody else, to get paid. It's just a way of avoiding having to make a payment. So this is an exception to the general rule. It was an enactment of the sages. Why did they make this enactment? That's the question. Ella balabayit terupolimhu. The reason is because the householder, meaning the employer, is so busy and distracted with his so many employees, and he's a contractor with a lot of subcontractors. So since his mind is running in 1,000 different directions, he might have honestly forgotten whether or not he paid a certain individual. He thought he paid, he said he paid, but the reality is he didn't pay, but it wasn't out of a desire to be dishonest or deceitful, he just didn't remember. So because a boss doesn't remember whether he paid each one of his 1,000 employees, but the individual employee knows whether he got paid, will trust to say so under oath of the employee. Now, ihachi, if this is true, native lebelo shvua, then why don't we allow the employee to assert that he wasn't yet paid and then collect his wage even without a solemn oath? And the answer to that is lahafiz dato shel balabais. Well, we want to placate or make happy and ease the mind of the balabait, the householder, the employer, because if he didn't get to hear a solemn oath from the other guy, he might be saying to himself, you know what, this guy's lying to me and deceiving me and stealing my money. At least if the other party takes a solemn oath, he's okay, the guy wouldn't perjure himself. It must be he's telling the truth. 113. Kuf Yud Gimel. Hamalvet chaveiro, if you lend money to your fellow, lo you should not take a mashkon collateral except in the presence of the court. Meaning, if the time to pay back the loan has arrived and payment was not remitted, and now you would like to grab something of approximating the value of what you were owed, you can only do this with the consent of the court. And moreover, you're not allowed to enter into the guy's house, the borrower's house, to grab something. Rather, you have to stay outside while he produces and comes outside to meet you with the item of value that you're going to end up taking. 114. Tanu Rabbanon. V'imish anihu, lo tishgav ba'avoto. If the counterparty, if the borrower was a poor man, you shall not sleep in his collateral item. Meaning, let's say he gives you his article of clothing to hold on to while you're waiting for him to pay you back in cash. You're not allowed to sleep in that article of clothing. Now, it's if the borrower is a poor man, as the Torah is talking about, ha'ashir shachi, but the Torah incredulously, the Talmud incredulously asks, and if the other guy was rich, you're allowed to sleep in his garment? My or how could that be? This is an example of ribit, of interest payment, because you'd end up getting paid the full value of the loan, plus the benefit of having slept in the guy's article of clothing, his pajamas. So there's no way this could be true. So Amar Rav Sheshis, the Rav Sheshis explained, no, it means if the borrower was a poor man, lo tishkavu to'atzlacha. You can't go to sleep at night while still holding in your possession the collateral. Rather, you have to return his pajamas every night so he can sleep in them. But if the other party was a rich man and he's not desperate for his pajamas at night, then you could hold on to the collateral and need not return it every evening. 115. Almana. When it comes to a widow, there are special laws concerning collateral and laws of borrowing. Bein shi'aniya, ben shi'ashira, whether she's rich or she's poor, ein mamashkenin ota, we do not take collateral from her. Shene'amar lo techbod beged almana, as it says in the Torah, you shall not take for yourself to grab or seize as collateral the garment of the widow. So, yes, there were those who say that the Dorosh Tama Dekra, they expound upon the purpose or the underlying meaning of the law to try to distinguish between rich and poor, but the primary opinion is it doesn't matter regarding the almanah, the widow, whether she's rich or poor, regardless of socioeconomic status, you don't take the collateral from her. Everyone have a great week.